Good day, aviators! Today we are diving into the world of exposed aviation to uncover some little-known facts and stories that was hard to notice. So fasten your seatbelt and let's take off into the wild world of aeronautics. By the way, do you know when it became necessary for every passenger to fasten a seatbelt before they take off? Everyone who has flown on a commercial flight knows the phrase. Ladies and gentlemen, the captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign. Please be seated and check to see if your seatbelt is fastened securely. Nowadays, according to the US federal law, refusing to fasten a seatbelt can cost a passenger a good of $10,000. And all that started from the first FAA regulation from the 1926 that made it clear that everyone on board is now required to wear a seatbelt during the takeoff and landing. This regulation had and has an undeniable logic. If you don't wear a seatbelt, for example on a Ryanair flight, the landing will be especially bad for you. Speaking of bad landings, one Pan American crew on the 25th of October 1960 had a truly bad landing on the whole different airport than that they were headed to. As the plane was approaching London, flying the third leg of its route from Tokyo to New York, it confused the runway 26 of the RAF Northolt Airport, the Royal Air Force Base, with the London Heathrow runway number 23, the flight's destination. So, the plane approached the runway, reported its position to the Heathrow Tower, the tower had cleared them to land, and the captain did so. But that landing seemed too strange to the crew. The runway was really short for their Boeing 707-300. And there were no other planes either on the taxiways or near the terminals. But all that didn't bother anyone on board. They stopped with only about 30 meters of runway tarmac to spare, saying to the ATC that they had to brake really tightly in order to stop, still oblivious to the fact that they did not land in Heathrow. Well, those passengers were very lucky to fly on the plane that was capable of stopping on that runway. Because if it would be an Airbus A340-200 or 300, the story wouldn't probably have such a good ending. It is widely known that the Airbus A340 is the plane which failed. But why? Well, this is a complicated question. The early models were so inefficient and underpowered that this Airbus plane wouldn't find nearly as many orders from the airlines as did its competitor, the Boeing 777. When Airbus had started developing the A340, it was the best era for the four-engine airplanes, because they were reliable, powerful, and the only planes which were allowed to do transoceanic routes. So the Airbus decided to make a quad jet to gain profit by selling the airplane to companies which were doing mainly far transoceanic operations. But near the end of the development, the new ETOPS regulations were accepted, which allowed the twin jets to fly within the 180 minutes from the nearest airport, instead of mere 60 which was before, allowing them to operate almost on every transoceanic route. So, it is one of the several reasons on why the Airbus A340 had failed even before the end of the certification process. Boeing had quickly taken the place the Airbus was interested in. The Boeing 777 is a much more powerful and efficient plane than the Airbus A340. But without the 180-minute rule for two-engine planes, it would never come through. That's because of ETOPS, Extended Range Twin-Engine Operations Performance Standards, which were created to certify that the plane is capable of flying a certain time without one engine. And as the engines were developing, the ETOPS were doing it as well. At first, in the 1936, the Bureau of Air Commerce, the predecessor of the FAA, restricted operations to within 100 miles, which is 160 kilometers from the airport, regardless of the number of engines. It is about 60 minutes with one engine inoperative. The same thing later did the FAA. Because of the ETOPS, the golden era for the quad jets came. Allowed to fly within the 180 minutes from the airport, they could cover about 95% of the Earth's surface. In the 1980, the FAA director said, "It'll be a cold day in hell before I let twins fly long-haul over-water routes," answering a question about the expansion for twin jets. Only in the second half of the 80s, the twins started their comeback. With the introduction of ETOPS 120 in 1985, which after 3 years with no accidents converted to 180 minutes, four-engine planes became way less effective. So ETOPS covers only engine failures. while other things like wind shear and turbulence doesn't count. And there are few airports and flight routes that can be quite harmful. Turbulence ranging from light to severe is among the leading causes of injuries in the sky, with over 145 serious injuries recorded among US carriers since 2010, according to the FAA. Therefore, it has become a top priority for operators to minimize turbulence to ensure the safety of the passengers and crew. But sometimes it is impossible to avoid severe turbulence, just because it affects plane the whole flight. One of such flight routes is the 3-hour flight from the Santiago, Chile to Santa Cruz, Bolivia. Because of its difficulty, only LATAM operates this route. Starting from the most turbulent airport in the world, Chile Arturo Merino Benitez International Airport, this flight has on average the strongest turbulence you can experience on a commercial flight for the last 2 years in a row. Commercial flight? What does that mean? The first ever airline in the world became the DLAG, which was founded on November 16, 1909 in Germany. As many of the very first airlines did, it was without any actual planes, operating only German-made Zeppelin airships. By mid-1914s, DLAG had carried over 10,000 fare-paying passengers on over 1,500 flights. During World War I, the German military made extensive use of Zeppelins as bombers and scouts, resulting in over 500 deaths and numerous bombing raids on Britain. The defeat of Germany in 1918 temporarily slowed the airship business. Although the DLAG established a scheduled daily service between Berlin, Munich and Friedrichshafen in 1919, the airships built for this service eventually had to be surrendered under the terms of the Treaty of Versailles, which also prohibited Germany from building large airships. An exception was made to allow the construction of one airship for the United States Navy, the order for which saved the company from extinction. When the restrictions on the airship constructions were lifted, the company had thrived for some years, operating regular routes from Germany to North America. It all continued until the Hindenburg disaster, after which blimps were considered too dangerous for flying and were altogether retired from the fleets. And there you have it, pilots! Aviation is a treasured trove of incredible stories and lesser-known facts that continue to captivate and inspire us. I hope you enjoyed this journey through the skies and invite you to share your favorite aviation facts or stories in the comments below. Until the next time, have a good flights and butter landings.